Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me, Karen.
Now, my absolute pleasure. I love what you're doing. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. It's in the early stages, but hopefully it grows into something.
Well, we have to start somewhere, don't we? That's the thing. People, I was saying on another podcast, people see these overnight successes supposedly, but they never are. They've always started from something small, and grown. And we start small as ourselves as humans, don't we? We can't just be, magnificent adults within straight away.
No, it takes time, that's for sure.
It does. We're going to get right into it and talk about Asanti and talk about, all of your experiences. But, I know that you're a person who, sort of plays it down a little bit. I'm not doing anything that great. But we're going to talk about it. You kind of trudged yourself off to Africa, not knowing what to expect. Well, I'm going to tell you that takes one hell of a gutsy person to just, up and leave and land in the middle of Africa and say, well, here I am, and sort of hope to God things work out. So I think that's incredibly courageous, really courageous. And then to come out the other end saying, well, things aren't good in this world, and each of us can make a difference. And I applaud you for, for backing yourself first, but for, there'd be really big steps you've taken. So why don't we get into it? What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
You're just looking at me like, no, I haven't done anything special. I think you're amazing. So, you're on this quest to make the world a better place, and rightly so, because we're in a bit of a pickle, and there's a lot of things that could be done a hell of a lot better. And whether it's the government's responsibility or our responsibility, or whether we all need to just pick our game up, it's a shame that we've allowed the planet, and humanity to fall in so many areas. But you're certainly on your, I guess, you're belting out your path, to make a difference. Were you like that as a kid?
I actually had quite a profound moment when I was about 9 years old. So until that point, I had quite a happy childhood and things were quite stable. And at 9, we took our first trip internationally. And that's until that point, I believed the whole world was like Australia.
Yeah.
And I got a bit of a slap in the face. So I saw poverty for the first time with my own 2 eyes, and that was had quite a profound effect on me. I remember seeing people begging in the streets and kids in rags, and I was in quite a lot of shock, and I felt overwhelmed, and I really felt outraged that the adults didn't seem to be doing anything about it. And I think that really planted the seed for me that there was some big problems out there, and I wanted to do something about it. And that just sort of grew from when I was a child.
So 9 years old, landing in Malaysia, thinking that you're going to a 5-star resort, probably. That's probably what you had in your head, like Australia, and you see all this poverty. But, and you say that you were outraged, like, do you think that's profound for a 9-year-old? Do you think that most 9-year-olds would be thinking, I'm bloody outraged with all these kids in rags?
I'm not sure. Maybe not. That's not a normal reaction, but it certainly was for me. And I'm actually really glad that happened. If I had never experienced it, it wouldn't have shaped me into the person I am today. So I'm very grateful that my parents showed me that. Yeah.
Well, I bet that was inadvertent. I bet they didn't mean to show you that. They certainly weren't planning, let's take Sarah to Malaysia and dump her in the middle of a poverty-stricken area and let's see if we can shake her up. They're probably the poor buggers were probably just taking you on a holiday, and then you've come back with this big, I'm saving the world, rant, and they're like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, I think it was a bit like that. Who is this? Well, where is this going to lead? What's our daughter going to do? So, yes, that's sort of where it all began.
Well, it sounds like you have this innate kindness, like that you were born with this feeling that there should be justice and there should be fairness in the world, and that people are people no matter what their situation, and they deserve to have I was going to say as good a life. I mean, I guess there's always going to be relevance, to where you live and to how good the government is and how good our job situation is and everything else. But at least we all deserve to live a life that's, not begging for food, and that we should all have clothes on our back, and that we should all have somewhere warm and safe to sleep at night. I guess these are, we can...
Basic human rights.
Basic human right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's not the case all around the world, and it should be. I think, you're probably as outraged as me. Is what annoys me so much is that there actually is enough money, enough resources, and enough food and enough water in the entire world, that every single human being can be living a decent life. It's comparable to where you live, but every single human being should have their basic rights covered. And because of, I guess I'm going to have my rant, the greed and the selfishness and the, narrow-mindedness of some people that are in situations of making decisions. There are so many, there are millions and millions who are struggling. So those people have outraged an innocent 9-year-old without even knowing it. That 9-year-old should become a prime minister and start ranting a fist. But like, and so what happened then? You came home when you were 9 and outraged. Would you start telling everyone at school, I'm going to change the world, or what happened there?
Yeah, I definitely, I was on do you remember the old 40-hour famine with World Vision? Yeah, I was on that, and I was, you name it, if there was a charity event, I was part of it, and always my family and friends were giving me money for this and that. That was all I could really do at that age. But yeah, I was kind of busting to do more when I got older, definitely.
Yeah, and then you so you went on to be a nurse, and then because that was well, you're obviously a supporting kind of nature, a caring empath. I'm just going to look after people, and so you did your nursing, but then what happened that you ended up saying, screw the nursing, I'm just going to go off and save the world and be ultra courageous, and not care about my own safety? I mean, most people don't do what you did. But so what happened that led you to going to Africa and walking away from nursing? And
yeah, so I finished my uni degree. I do still nurse. I need that to pay the bills. But I finished my uni degree, and I was about 20. And around that time, I also lost my dad to cancer, which was quite devastating. We were really close, and he really understood me. And he used to joke that I'd never have any money because I was going to give it away trying to save the world. And he was right. So that sort of, now I was 20, I was like, I really want to get over to Africa and actually see firsthand what these communities are facing, and try and understand it. And if I can, just make a small difference. So I started in South Africa. I volunteered with an organisation which was basically in the slums of Cape Town, and it was a daycare centre, but it was more like a little tin shed, and it had a few teachers trying to entertain these preschoolers all day, singing songs and playing with them, and just so that the parents could go out and try and earn some money. So I did that for a couple of months, and I loved it. I was just where I was meant to be. But at the same time, it was very confronting for a 20-year-old. There was a lot of racism, inequality. It was quite dangerous. I got mugged at knife point.
Wow.
Really gave my mum a heart attack back in Australia. But it was just a really good trip for me to see that I couldn't fix the whole world, and there was a lot of problems, but I made a little bit of difference to those kids' lives, and that was sort of the beginning. more travel in Africa.
So were you, like, it is the crime capital, like South Africa's not good for that sort of stuff, and you're getting mugged at knife point. You're 20. Was there any point there you thought, oh, I'm getting back on a plane, like, stuff this? I can't make a difference, I'm coming home. Did you reach that point?
I don't think I did, because I realised, the guys that mugged me were probably 15 or 16, and they were in a desperate situation. And I put myself in a silly situation by walking home alone one night. So that was I felt that was my era, not theirs. But I certainly felt that maybe I didn't want to go back to South Africa in particular. I wanted to explore some other countries that were maybe a bit safer, and there wasn't that racial divide. The racism in South Africa and the crime is quite hard, quite a difficult challenge to work with. So I sort of felt that other countries in Africa where, I guess, you don't have the black versus white, and you have sort of more community, that was maybe where I wanted to spend my time.
Yeah. Well, you're very kind, because most people wouldn't be blaming, excusing 15-year-olds for mugging you. And in actual fact, you're very lucky that's all that happened to you. But and you met, but I want to get on to the other countries in a minute, because we'll do it as a timeline, because it's so damn exciting. But while you were in South Africa, you met a lovely woman from Malawi, and I always get that wrong, Malawi. And tell us more about her, because she's really given you a nice bullet up your bum, didn't she? Really, real inspiration to do more. And
yeah. So one of the teachers at the daycare centre was a Malawian woman named Dylas, and fortunately we kept in contact for quite a few years. And when I was back in Australia, I met my husband and got married and got on with life, but she was always in my mind. And eventually she made her way back to Malawi and purchased a block of land, and she had this dream of opening her own daycare centre. So my husband was quite curious to see Africa and quite keen to make a difference as well. So we had this kind of moment when we said, let's go over, let's fly to Malawi and see this block of land. We walked on the land with this lady Dylas and her husband and her kids, and my husband says, I've got this crazy idea. Let's go home to Australia, let's fundraise, and let's move to Malawi for a year and build a daycare centre.
Wow, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I was like, completely blown away. I thought he was crazy, but it was kind of like, why not? What have we got to lose?
Yeah.
It's a very different country, Malawi, to South Africa. It's in the east of Africa, and not a lot of people know it. It's very small. The average Malawian farms the land and lives a very simple life. So it felt somewhere we would like to spend some time. So we came home. We saved for 2 years because we knew we wouldn't have an income for a year. We worked really hard. We pulled off 3 big fundraisers with our family and friends. They all thought we were a bit crazy, but they gave us money anyway. And then we moved to Malawi. We spent 6 months building the daycare centre on this block of land, working with the village people, and then we opened with 100 preschoolers.
Wow.
Yeah.
100.
Pandemonium.
Yeah.
And then we spent another 6 months working with this Malawian family and making sure that it was independent and sustainable. And it's now been open 6 years, and it's completely independent from ongoing aid. So it was a roaring success. So the whole point of it was that we didn't want to build a daycare centre that would fall apart as soon as we left.
Yeah.
So we worked with the people in the village, and the parents came up with the fees that they thought was fair, and it was low enough that the parents could afford to send their kids there but high enough to pay the teachers and buy food and keep the centre running. So it was all sort of driven by the community, which was really great. And I think that's why it's been a success.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. And it's 6 years later, I mean, and they're still running it themselves. And that's evidence that it's a beautifully set up, sustainable system, that it really is going to look after itself. And I love that you're saying get the community to, to take responsibility for it. And that's, I think there's a lot of, and I'm guilty of it, because I run One Planet Classrooms. I founded that, and we do a lot of work in Uganda. And it's, that you got to be very careful, because there can be a lot of people who want to hand out. And we're trying very hard, and I have been guilty of giving handouts, and we've got to be a lot more focused on hand up, and that sort of saying come from a friend of mine who runs Heartprint in Cambodia, is about, trying to get people, give them a hand up, get them started so that they can get themselves going. So I think you've done a better job than me, because I've started a few and we just haven't been as disciplined, in getting that whole sustainability thing going. But we have got some great projects that are sustainable, but I think I need to take a leaf out of your book and be a bit more disciplined about it. But after then you've come back, like let's say you've built the childcare center, daycare center and then you've taught them how to do it, and then you've come back. And then what? Then have you had more plans? Did you just keep thinking, I'm going to go back to Africa and build another daycare center? Like, do these thoughts come up in your mind all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Africa is now very embedded in both my husband and mine's hearts. It feels like home. And I guess we know the model works, and we could go on to do more daycare centers. A lot of it comes down to the family you work with, though. We trust them completely. We educated them completely. It was never our daycare center. It was always theirs. So I don't know if it would work in another country or another village. But I guess I also had this realization that perhaps there's a reason that I was born in Australia and I have a university education and I'm safe and I have spare income. Perhaps there's something that I could be doing from Australia that could be making a difference over there. So that's really was the beginning of Asanti, and when I sort of began learning about social enterprises.
Yeah. And so Asanti, so you came back to Australia and, like after you built it, and you're seeing, I guess that's where your eyes were open to social enterprise. You started to put two and two together, that, wait a minute, I'm earning money, businesses, if I have or businesses who are social enterprises are putting a certain profit, part of their profit towards helping less fortunate in whatever way that might be. So at what point did you decide, well, I could do that? Because you've gone back to nursing, to keep back and forth to nursing by the sound of it. And it's kind of like you seeing that other people are doing social enterprise. What was it that made you say, well, I'm going to do a social enterprise? I
think it began with the brands Thank You. I'm sure you've heard of Thank You.
Yeah.
If your listeners haven't, basically they're a brand that started with bottled water, and instead of putting the profits into making their company larger, and they would put their profits into building wells in developing countries. So it was like, buy a bottle of water and we're going to give water to people that need it. And it was just started by this group of uni guys, and I read their book and I bought their products, and it just made sense to me, it's such a simple concept. Whatever, you buy a product that we need anyway, and then instead of it lining the pockets of a CEO's company, those profits go back into charities making change. It's the same with Who Gives a Crap. They're another really great company with toilet paper, building toilet facilities for people in developing countries. So I started thinking that these can't be the only two. And I started on a bit of a research business planning journey, and I thought there must be more of these companies out there, more smaller ones that people haven't heard of who are doing good. And I found them.
Yeah.
And that was a really exciting moment for me. I found, a pad and tampon company where they put their profits into educating girls in Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
And all these fantastic brands that nobody's probably heard of, but they're actually putting their profits into making a change. And I thought, what if I can't be the only one that wants to buy these products, and they're quite difficult to find. So I thought, what if I could create an online store where all these products are in one place and you can find them, purchase them, and make a difference with things that you probably need to buy anyway. So that's where the idea for Asanti came.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And it's good. I agree with you, because if you to go out looking, sometimes you do get, even though you know it's good and it's better for the planet, you do get sometimes, I can't be bothered buying from there and there. It's like, so you just go to the supermarket and you just buy, bypass all of that because of the effort. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but I'm saying in a busy world, that's what happens. So you've got this online platform and you're bringing all these products, together so that people can just buy multiple, products from all these different places on your platform. I think that's fantastic. And you started that, well, only last year, actually, 2020. And you did the Startup Gippsland program.
Yeah.
Did you already have the idea in your mind, and then you saw Startup Gippsland and thought, that's what I can do to really give that a good push? Is that what happened?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I am a nurse, not a business owner. Well, I wasn't.
Yep.
And we'd had success in Malawi with the daycare centre, but I didn't know anything about running a business. So, I was really lucky to be chosen for Startup Gippsland, and they sort of talked through the whole idea and how are you going to make profit and what's the message and what's your values and just things that you hadn't thought of, and made this sort of really solid business plan. And then it was a 3-month course, and I opened in November last year. So
fantastic. And it's so you're still nursing. Before you said you're still nursing to pay the bills, and I think this is a really important concept, because for example, you go and do Startup Gippsland there, and there's other startup programs, there's RMIT, and there's all sorts of other startup programs. There can be a thought, I'm going to go and do this program, and when I come out the other end, I'm going to set up a business, and that's all I'm going to do. And I think that there can be a lot of pressure in people's own minds to think that, I have to have one job or the other, and I'm a big proponent for, I want to start a business, but I can't just jump ship, because you've got to build the damn thing. You have to start somewhere. You have to start with one customer, one product, one sales, like that sort of stuff. You can't, well, some people jump ahead really quick, but it's not very common. And so people say, but I can't, I have to do nursing, or I have to do Asanti, but I always say, well, just do 4 days of nursing and just do 1 day of Asanti, and slowly grow it, or do 2 hours every night, or, something like, you can actually do that. And eventually it switches over, eventually you do more and more in your business as it grows. But tell us more about, social enterprise, just in case anybody's listening and they don't really understand the concept of it, just give us, I think we already explained it, but give us a bit more of a...
Basically, the way I'd like to describe it is social enterprises are businesses that intentionally trade to tackle social or environmental problems. So that basically the reason for their business is the cause, whether that's cleaning up the ocean, whether that's educating girls, that's the reason they're open. Yeah. It's not an afterthought. It's not a side thing. It's like we are making bamboo toothbrushes and we are giving profits to clean up the oceans. That's why we exist. So they're brands with conscience.
Conscience. Yeah. I nearly wasn't going to ask you that question. I nearly wasn't going to ask you to explain it because we had covered it, giving the percentage of profits. But I'm so glad I did ask you, because that's a really, really clear definition and a really lovely definition of a social enterprise. And I love that, that they exist simply to do that. So their why is incredibly strong. The why is so powerful. And we need a lot more organizations. I wish some of the big corporates would just chip a little bit more of their profit into helping the world become better, because we certainly need it. Now, Asanti supports grassroots social enterprises, so which we've already said. And when I've got it in front of me because I don't want to bugger this up, but you've got all these brands that you're supporting, that you're hosting on your website, and all of them have donate 50% of their profits, or they have a buy one, give one policy. So is that intentional? Do you intentionally find those?
Yeah, so I wanted to make Asanti quite strict. I'm sure that you're aware there's a lot of greenwashing and a lot of, we do this for the world from companies, and a lot of it is a bit of bull.
Yeah. Yes.
So I set the bar quite high. I wanted the businesses to actually show proof that they were giving 50% or more of their profits to a cause, or they do this buy one, give one model. So, that sort of shows me that it's not 5 cents from every purchase. It's actually a substantial amount of money, and that's the reason for them operating. So I guess that's kept the field quite narrow. We've got 13 brands and about 40 products, but I'm hoping that's going to grow. And they've responded really well to that. So that's been my criteria, and so far it's going really well.
So when you do you approach businesses, and say, would you like to be part of this? I've got this website. Do some of them say, oh, geez, you're demanding?
Yeah, well, if they don't meet that criteria, then I usually don't approach them. And I've had brands approach me saying, can I be featured on your website? But they might only give 5%. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a risky business move, maybe. I don't know, but I'm setting the bar high, and I'm hoping that's going to encourage other businesses to follow suit. Yeah.
It might be setting the bar high, and you might be missing out on some, except I think that you're doing the right thing. This is just my core belief system, is that I think that human beings are very good at pleasing everybody and not wanting to rock the boat. And, we sell our souls, far too often, because I'll just nudge this out here and there. When you get people that absolutely say, no, absolutely not, this is my box, and I'm not budging from, this is my lane, is probably better. I'm staying in my own lane, and if you want to join me, this is what it is. I actually think that's way better, because human beings also love boundaries. Do you know what they love, well, that's what's expected, and I will or I won't do it. I think it's fantastic. And do the other thing is about each of your products, or each of your no, it's not the companies, it's each product. Every single product is contributing to at least 3 of the SDGs, which is the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN. And are they, is that part of your criteria as well? Like, they have to be satisfying at least 3? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really passionate about the 2030 goals. I think they really map out the path that we all need to collectively take if we're going to get through some of these problems that our world's facing. But I also found that a lot of people don't know anything about the 2030 goals. So I thought I could use Asanti as an educational platform to teach people that they can actually play a role as an individual in trying to reach them. So for instance, if you buy a candle from our website, we have a company called Good Francis, and they're working towards 3 goals. And for every candle you buy, they donate a solar lamp to a child living without electricity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's targeting number 4, because that's quality education. That allows a child to study at night when it's getting dark, and they would normally not be able to do that.
Yep.
And also number 7 and 12, which is around renewable energy and reducing emissions, because you're not having this kerosene lamp in the child's home with their family, which is, not good
Dangerous.
for them. Yeah, definitely. So those 3, that brand is targeting those 3. And then every single brand we have is working towards 3 that are specific to them. And by you purchasing that product, you're contributing to getting to those 2030 goals. I really believe that, as you said before, relying on our governments, relying on our global leaders to reach the 2030 goals is not perhaps working as well as it should be. So it's up to all of us collectively to work towards them, and we can do that through our buying choices. So,
well, that's actually the most powerful way we can get to them, to affect these goals. Now, a couple of things just to clarify for a few people. There's a lot of people that want to help and want to do good, right? But there's, like if I said to somebody, or someone said to me, oh, I'd love to buy solar lamps for kids in Africa, but I've got no damn clue how to do it. These kind of mediums are giving people an altruistic channel, to go do great things without even leaving your seat, like, oh, I just get on my computer and tip, tack, tack. And then next thing I've bought a solar lamp for a kid in Africa, this is such a powerful way to contribute, without that feeling of helplessness and feeling like, oh, I've got to travel to Africa and, I've got to, it's such I love it so much. And the other thing that you said about there is the 2030 goals. I just want to clarify so that people who are not aware of, these goals understand. So Sarah talked about, supporting the 2030 goals. So the UN came out with 17 sustainable development goals that I guess their goal was that they would be met by, or at least aiming for them to be met by 2030. Clearly, we're not going to get there because of exactly the big leaders and, other people who are not going there. And the other thing is, as Sarah said, if we rely on governments and we rely on the big leaders to get us there, there is not a chance in hell we're going to come even close. And the only way we're going to come close to them or at least move towards them is by the average person, doing things and doing good and trying to meet them. And so the 17 goals, I'm not going to read them all out, but it's kind of like no poverty, zero hunger, good health and wellbeing, quality education, life on land, life below water, climate action, clean water, sanitation. So there's 17 of them that are all kind of, tackling different things in the world. And I think that it's really nice to attach yourself to 1 or 2 or 3 of them. And so what little thing could I do there? Do you have is there one that you're specifically working towards that you particularly love?
Yeah, I actually love goal number 1, which is to end poverty in all its forms everywhere. It's very simple. It's I really believe in 2021 that there should be no one suffering from extreme poverty or struggling to survive. It's just completely unacceptable in my mind. So I believe all the other goals in the table sort of support them. And all the literature on poverty, if you read up a bit on the power of defeating poverty, they'll all say the same thing. Basically, poverty is a ladder, and if you can give somebody a leg up on the first rung of that ladder, they'll pull themselves up. So we have enough money, we have enough programs in the world. If we can help everybody to get their leg on that first rung of the ladder, they can pull themselves out, that's for sure.
I love that analogy. I really love that. And I love that you're saying too, I mean, so, people might hear you saying it's unacceptable, and there'll be people who think, well, that's just your opinion, it is unacceptable, and it's just you saying, well, Sarah's not going to change the world by saying, well, I think it's unacceptable. However, the whole point of this is that it's actually avoidable. Like, as we said at the very start of the interview, if things were more balanced and if there was just that little bit of extra tip, towards getting people, as you say, on that first run, which we do have all the resources, the money, that we have everything in the world to eliminate poverty in a week. That's truth. I don't care what anyone, that is actual truth. We have everything on this planet already that to eliminate poverty, and we don't, because there are certain, I'll just say governments, but that kind of, it's broader than that. There are certain, just situations, that choosing to keep people in poverty. It's a way of controlling people. It's a way of building mass abundance in, for personal people and for other stuff. I don't want to go right into it, but the point is, there are people in this world that are deliberately kept in poverty to suit the needs of other people. And I'll go as far as to say to suit the selfishness and greed and disgustingness of other people, because it's to eradicate poverty, to give those people what they need to get a kickstart, does not take away anything from us. And that's the sad bit, because people say, well, I'd rather them starve than me, all that kind of stuff. But nobody gets to starve if poverty is actually dealt with. And that, I just wish, but look at all the corruption all over the world. I don't even know the answer, but I think the first answer is people becoming aware, and people becoming, I guess, acknowledging that they can actually start doing things like supporting Asanti and others, that actually start addressing this and giving people some opportunity to find that first rung on the ladder.
Yeah. And that was the whole vision behind Asanti. I know that not everybody can get on a plane and live in Malawi for a year and do a project. That's not sustainable with family and children and all sorts of things. But I believe if you're going to buy a gift for your mum for Mother's Day, and you can get her a candle that gives a solar lamp to a child in Africa, or you can buy your pads and tampons that help girls go to school, then why wouldn't you, really?
Exactly.
And I just want to give people the opportunity to find them and purchase them, and to just know that they've actually made a tangible difference. So that is the purpose behind Asanti.
It's fabulous, but it's not just to make it, you make a difference to yourself, like when you give to somebody else, and you make a difference in another person's life, you put so much goodness into your own life. There's no cost to it. It's actually benefits all round to be doing this. I freaking love it. I absolutely love it. And I love that you took the chance. I love that you backed yourself and had a go. And even if you were shitting yourself, were you shitting yourself at some points?
Probably not as much as going on that one-way flight to Malawi and not knowing what was going to happen. But since that was a success, that gave us a little bit of hope.
Have you been surprised at how well Asanti has taken off? I know it's slow, I know it's starting, I know it's got to build and all that, but how do you feel when people buy stuff? Is it like this, yes, like a celebration, or?
Yeah, it is really exciting. I've done a few, because we're based on Phillip Island in Victoria. We've done a few markets down at Phillip Island, and when people walk in and say, I love what you're doing, and I love that I can buy this product and know I'm making a difference, it is really rewarding, and it's it makes you feel inspired. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it makes you feel special too. Like it feeds your good stuff. That you're this like a conduit. For helping make a any difference. Like there's so many ways to make a difference. You said earlier too, when you went to South Africa, that I can't remember exactly what you said, but something about doing your pocket of good, just doing a little small patch or whatever. And that's the whole point, that we get overwhelmed with the big picture of the world, and we get overwhelmed with how much there is to do, and I'm just me, and there's no way that I can fix the world's problems, but we just need to realize that we're not here to save the world. We're here to do as best job as we possibly can in our little piece of the jigsaw puzzle, and put that damn piece in with as much gusto as possible. And if everyone does that, we all, I get this belief that we can reach a tipping point for good, and I might be a bloody naive fool. I don't know, but that's what I live every day for, is to just get closer to that tipping point. And I may never see it in my lifetime, but if people like me and you and we don't start in this generation. I know you're a generation under me, but if we don't start, how we need to start creating the the foundation, for future generations to springboard from. And maybe in 50 years things will be different, simply because we took a chance and did things 50 years back. And you got to live by that philosophy, don't you? That you plant the tree that you may never sit under the shade of. And
I absolutely believe in that. And somebody said something to me about poverty once, that, if 50 years ago you had said that there would be a black president of the United States, no one would believe you. Yeah. Someone had said, 100 years ago that slavery would be gone, no one would believe you. And I truly believe that about poverty, that, our grandchildren will look at us hopefully and say, what do you mean there was people starving in the street and girls didn't go to school? I have high hopes that poverty will be history and not a part of our everyday lives for so many people all over the world.
Yeah, and I think whether it happens or not, I think to have at least some kind of well-being in yourself and some balanced mental health within yourself, so that you don't go down a big rabbit shithole. I think you've got to keep having that hope and looking forward to it and keep trying. Do you know what I mean? Because if you wake up with no hope every day, that's the end of the world. But if you wake up with hope, even though you can see it's a damn big job and it's not up to you entirely, because it's going to have to carry on for some time yet, but just that little bit of hope that springs you out of bed every morning, doesn't it? It's that I'm working towards this thing I'm hopeful for, and so at the very least, which I hope that's not it, but at the very least, it's keeping you with good well-being, good mental health, and good contribution to everything around you. That's got to be good for. It's got to be good for the world. It's got to be good for you, even if you don't reach your goal. But I hope you bloody do reach your goal, because I can't. It drives me nuts that there are people starving in the world. But anyway, all we can do is just have good people like you, working towards it. And I reckon what you're doing is bloody fantastic. Now you've got values on your website. So you've got 4 values: ethical, disruptive, impact, and integrity. How did you decide on these, and what do they mean to you?
Yeah, so where do I start? I believe businesses have this enormous power to be a force for good, and I wanted Asanti to set the bar for that and to be an example for that. So everything we do with Asanti is ethically minded, and that sort of brings in the integrity as well. From the brands we choose to the packaging we choose, it's honesty, integrity, and ethical. And I chose disruptive because I believe a lot of businesses need to really take a look at themselves. It's whether the way they're trading, the materials they're using, the message they're sending, if they're giving anything back, they need to do better. And I believe that we're on a path of consumers demanding it.
Yeah.
So I wanted Asanti to be disruptive and sort of inspire businesses to go, hey, maybe we need to look at some things and make some adjustments here because we're not doing enough.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And when you're talking about businesses are not doing enough and the consumers are now, questioning, and, that the consumers are deciding what they go with. I was reading a great thing the other day, and I've read it many times, and Gen Y, they're really give back. Their big focus is give back. And then Gen Z is more like protesting. You're sticking their hands up saying, this isn't fair. I'm not even going to bloody work for you if you're not doing good, that sort of stuff. So even if it's not just consumers, even big organizations, big corporate stuff, corporate businesses, is that their staff are soon all going to be us baby boomers who do the right thing and yes sir, no sir bullshit. We're going to be out soon, and you're just going to be left with Gen Y and Gen Z, and the younger ones. And if you're not doing good, you're not going to have good staff. And now we're already seeing a problem with people being able to keep good staff. They're top talent are leaving because their business is not giving them, serving their values. So I think we're on a little trajectory to actually have corporates, big corporations that are doing shit, actually going to have to start being disrupted. They're going to have to be disrupted because they won't keep staff if they don't start doing good. So
yeah.
Isn't that hopeful? Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, it is.
I think it's fantastic. Well, what's your vision for the world?
So I would love to see a world where social enterprise is the norm rather than the exception.
Yeah.
So if you as a consumer walk into a retail store, you pick up a product and you expect it to give back in some way. And how much does it give back? And if it doesn't give back, I'm not going to purchase it. So I would love to see a movement almost like the free range versus cage eggs movement.
Yeah.
Where, the free range was for the hippies and no one was buying them until people started to sort of realize the ethics behind it. And then you have that change in supply and demand. Suddenly people wanted the free range eggs and now they're the mainstream, and cage is definitely getting a smaller portion of the pie. So I would love to see that with social enterprise products.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
And that's about awareness too, isn't it? Because you talk, like people didn't know what was happening with the chickens, until somebody rang the bell and said, oh, do you know what's happening? By the way, the whole egg industry is pretty shit because they ground up baby chickens. But anyway, I'll just let other people find out about that. But the point is, unless we actually put information in front of people, we're not going to go looking for it because it suits us. That suits me to go to the supermarket and just get whatever I want, and the cage eggs are a little bit cheaper. I'll just do that. Suits me. And then I find out about stuff, and then our conscience kicks in as human beings. We're like, actually, that's not very good. Nah, I better not do that. And so I think that it's just awareness, isn't it? It's just keep hammering the message. And the more people like you are out there talking about social enterprise, the more we're going to realize that as consumers, we have massive opportunity to change the world.
Yes.
Massive opportunity. Yeah. Just I love it. I love this conversation. You are just a bloody shining light, and I just wish there was a million more of you in the world. And I absolutely love it. And last year I was a mentor with Startup Gippsland as well as this year. But last year I didn't get to meet Sarah because she was from a different shire, and I was only focusing on my shire. But oh my God, I wish I had met you back then because you and I would have gone down rabbit burrows together, and they wouldn't have been able to get us concentrating on what we had to do. But I've loved it. So I've got my final question. Get off the bench. This whole podcast is to inspire people to take action, of course. So there's many people who truly want to help create a better world and don't know where to start. Or maybe they have an idea but don't know how to execute it. What advice would you give them?
I would say the first most important thing is don't underestimate your power as a consumer. Exactly what you said. Every single day we're given opportunities to put our dollars into good or bad, whether that be a cafe that supports people with disabilities, you know, giving them employment, or whether that's, like I said, a candle for your mum's birthday that gives a solar lamp. And our dollars are our choice, and they can be really powerful decisions.
Yeah.
And if we're all wise and ethical consumers, I believe that we can be active participants in making this world better rather than just passive bystanders. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Love it. And I love that you've said we don't have to be passive bystanders. I absolutely love that. We can all play a role in this. And I've loved this. You're just freaking awesome, and you're just fantastic. I just love you. You're bloody fantastic. Now, where can people find you and your platform and start following you and give you tons of love?
Yeah, so you can visit our website. It's www.asanti.com.au. And we also have Instagram and Facebook, which is @Shop Asanti. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Sarah Dowell, which is do well spelling.
Ah, wow. Yeah.
And yeah, just reach out if you want to know any more about our brands, or you want to purchase. We're more than happy to get in touch. So
that's fantastic. Sarah Dowell. Yeah. Now, I never saw that when I wrote your name down several times. That's not, I kid you not. I use this app called Otter, and I was recording something about you just so that I remembered to add it to my notes. And no shit, I'm not shitting you. It actually come up as Sarah Dowell, and I didn't even friggin' notice it. And I just went, oh yeah, that's Dowell. Yeah, and I didn't even notice it. Wow, see, the universe was trying to kick me in the head, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did toss up with calling the business Do Well, but I didn't want it to be about me. I wanted it to be about Africa, and Asanti is thank you in Swahili. So I wanted it to be more of a reflection of that. So
I love that. I didn't even ask you where the name came from, but yeah. Well, actually, I think it was in the intro. No, it was in the intro. Yeah. I love it. I think you're shining light. You're just evidence that you can set up something, you can make a difference so easily. I know it's not easy. I know there's challenges in setting up businesses and all that sort of stuff, but it's not, when you consider the effort you got to put into that compared to people dying on the streets, it's not a big effort. It just is a bit of work. And I just think you're bloody wonderful. And I wish you all the luck in the world. And I hope people, well, it's not luck, it's hard work as well, but I hope people go to your website, go buy a candle and get a solar lamp over to some, to a family, or get to give some girls some education. There's so many things on it. Go take a look at it. And Sarah, thank you so much. You're just bloody amazing.
Thank you so much for having me on and having the chance to share Asanti's story. I really appreciate the exposure, because we're still trying to get our name out there and increase. The more sales we can do, the more good we can do. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Well, my absolute pleasure. So I look forward to having a coffee one day. And but in the meantime, we'll just have to do with this. But thank you so very much.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.